Greetings world, welcome to my first devlog. I'm making a game where you control a camp of monsters to defend against an adventuring hero. I first found the idea while making the game for the Godot Wild Jam 33, having the theme, You Aren't the Hero. I wanted to put a different spin on the idea rather than just being the villain killing a bunch of good guys, so I thought, how does someone consider themselves a hero? They don't, the ones around them do. I then thought about my favorite hero, Link. He goes out killing monsters for his literal breakfast. Does slaying massive groups of intelligent, albeit malicious creatures constitute him as a hero? In the monster's eyes, probably not. And thus, Monster Camp was born. When you're trying to defend your home from a scary man in a green hat, Link doesn't seem so heroic. Some inspiration for the game also came from one of the wild cards, which is an optional limitation to add a unique challenge to the game jam. I chose the wild card Transmutation, which stated that you can't kill enemies, only change them. While writing the script for this video, I just realized that I've been reading this as you can only change into them. So I created the mechanic where you can change which monster you are controlling. A slight misinterpretation of the wild card, but not an unwelcome one. So the game will work like this. You'll have a series of levels, each a different camp with various monster and map configurations. The hero will enter the camp and try to kill all of your monsters. So to defend your camp, you need to strategically sacrifice your monsters and exploit the hero's AI to defeat them. While your camp slowly increases in strength throughout the levels, the hero will as well, sporting more weapons, stamina, and health. Okay, so with the idea in mind, I then made some art. I wanted to practice doing my own art for this game, but the bad news was, I suck at art. In the yesteryear of 2020, I was working on a game where the art for this character took a whole hour to complete. I think he looks pretty good, but regardless, I try to avoid doing my own art. So this time, I made it as easy as possible for me, 8x8 pixel art. How hard could that have been? Well, despite a few of you waiting for me to include a montage of my artistic failings, it actually went pretty okay. I started with the hero, and before long, I had the Boko, Skelly, and Kisi completed as well. I also made a quick tile set for the terrain and camp obstacles. Speaking of the Boko, this guy will be the first monster you meet. It's heavily inspired from the Legend of Zelda, as much of my game is, so it'll be a pretty basic monster like in the games. The Boko is average in speed, strength, and health, making it a good all-rounder monster. The Boko, along with all the other monsters, work as finite state machines. If you don't know what that is, basically a finite state machine is a method used to split an object's various finite number of actions into separate actions called states. The states can be things such as run or attack. Creating a finite state machine gives way for a more organized object, and it makes it a lot easier to add new actions, since you don't have to change one messy code file containing all your logic. Because I'm using Godot, each state is a node containing a script. So for my monsters, they use around 6 states: idle, move, AI move, attack, hit, and die. You'll see that the idle and move states have a little squishy animation. I made these from a shader that moves the sprite's vertices in a sine wave over time. The move animation also tilts the sprite back and forth quickly. I think it looks quite cute. I wanted to make it as easy as possible for me to create new monsters and modify old ones, so I made a few JSON files to help. They track things like the monster's stats and the hero's stats on every level. That way, if I ever want to change any stats, I don't have to scour through dozens of scenes and scripts. Also, if my JSON code looks bad, don't judge me. I've never written a JSON file until this project. Anyway, after creating the Boko, I used my monster creation system to create a monster full of unique mechanics and abilities. The Skelly is basically just a beefier version of the Boko, meant to tank hits and deal big damage. I also made a monster I call a Kisi, which has the opposite archetype of the Skelly. It is a small, fast monster that can lead the hero, do chip damage, and act as cannon fodder. The Kisi has a unique action where it dashes forward. So far, this is the only attack in the game that can aim diagonally, and I'm embarrassed to say how long it took me to get the animation and hitboxes working for this. On top of this, the Kisi has unique passive behavior where it will follow the monster that you're controlling if it's close enough. Kisi will also attack if your controlled monster attacks. I wanted this to imitate how Keese in Breath of the Wild would attack and arrive in swarms. I think this mechanic will really allow players to be creative with controlling multiple monsters at once. Next, sound effects. Alright, moving on. You know the one thing I knew I was missing from the Game Jam release of this game? A ranged monster. I originally thought I would make something similar to the Octorok, but my low pixel count and bad art skills made the sprite almost impossible to draw. Instead, I drew inspiration from the pea shooter from Plants vs. Zombies, and I think this one worked a lot better. Not only was it easier to draw, it also had more distinction between the head and the body. This distinction would later come in handy, as I would need the monster to shoot in 4 directions. I decided to call this monster the Peepo, after the pea shooter, even though I later made it shoot seeds rather than peas. For the Peepo, I made a new state called Aim, where the monster will be able to move very slowly and, well, aim. Told you the state machine would be useful. After shooting a seed, the Peepo's speed would increase greatly, allowing it to retreat and reposition. The hero was quick to make. I basically copied the Boko node, added some navigation, and hooked up some basic AI to it. The hero also has a stamina system where if they attack, they lose 1 stamina point. Their stamina refreshes at a rate of 1 point per 2 seconds, so after a few attacks, the hero will be left defenseless. So far, the hero's AI is as follows. Firstly, they will attack the closest enemy to them. If a monster attacks the hero, they will target that monster for a certain amount of time. If the hero runs out of stamina, they will run away until their stamina is recovered. As I add more weapons and systems to the hero, I will make further updates to their AI. So far it's pretty basic, but it's still fun to play against. As for improvements to the game, one of the first things that comes to mind is game feel. I feel like the game is missing that oomph to make it feel great. Some improvements I can make to the game are adding particle effects, screen shake, and improving some animations, especially that of the Kisi and Skelly. If you've been paying attention, you will probably have seen a skull chest placed in every level. At the moment, they don't do anything, but I'm thinking of giving them a purpose later on. I'm not quite sure what it should be yet, so I'm open to suggestions. Well, for now, that's everything I got from my game. If you'd like to try out the game for yourself, the Game Jam release for Monster Camp is linked in the description. It's free to play, available on browsers, and downloadable for Windows, Mac, and Linux. If you have any suggestions or comments for the game, feel free to write a comment. I really enjoy reading what you guys have to say about the game. Until next time, have a great day.